What can we do to feel better and be happier? This was a subject in Jonah Hill's documentary called Stutz, about his long-time relationship with his therapist, Phil Stutz. I'm going to review some highlights of Phil Stutz's tools on improving your inner state or your mood, along with a little bit of research on happiness and my opinion as well about what improves mood as a psychotherapist with 20 years of clinical experience. You definitely want to hear the part about getting stuck in the maze and his concept called a snapshot. First, Stutz explains that there are three aspects of reality that no one can avoid. They're pain, uncertainty, and constant work. Now, what he means by work is that we are never complete. We're always working on ourselves throughout our lives. Dr. Stutz uses a concept called radical acceptance that was made famous by a book by Tara Brach. Now, radical acceptance means fully accepting and embracing and even normalizing how things are in reality. And as a result, reality becomes more bearable, or at least our emotional reaction to reality becomes more bearable. Essentially, we stop fighting reality. We put down our defenses and accept it. Now, second, Stutz talks about activating your life force. According to Stutz, your life force has three levels. Level 1, and the most important, is your physical body. This includes diet, exercise, and sleep. And he and Jonah discuss how working on your physical health is actually 85% of what makes you feel better. I agree, and research backs this with stress management studies, that your brain and body need movement, nature, nutrition, and good sleep to function. Level 2 is your relationship with other people. Now, when people get depressed, they start to pull back and away from the people in their life. Dr. Stutz refers to relationships as handholds to let yourself get pulled back into life. So we don't need tons of people in our life, but we do need a few. And if you're struggling with your mood, challenge yourself and take the initiative. Invite someone to coffee or to take a walk and catch up. We can be those handholds for others, and they can be the same for us. Now, level 3 is your relationship with yourself. This level is all about knowing, accepting, and befriending yourself. Journaling is a great tool to use to get to know yourself better, and it has benefits similar to therapy. It can really reveal what's going on, what's happening internally. Now, what I agree with and promote is concentrating on level 1, your physical body, including movement, nutrition, and sleep. And if you're struggling and you're trying to work through your issues, you can become very emotionally overwhelmed and fused to your thoughts and emotions as if they were facts. And when you're going through an emotionally challenging time, start with the basics and work on moving your body first. If you saw the documentary Stutz on Netflix, you may remember the discussion about life as a series of actions that Stutz describes as strings of pearls. So basically visualize that each action you take, whether it's a big or a small action, is a pearl on a continuous strand. And the object is to keep taking an action, keep putting another pearl on the strand, and keep moving forward. Stutz says that the winner is not the one who always makes the best decisions or looks the best. The winner is the one who works that cycle, who's willing to take the risks and will interact with some degree of faith and eats the consequences. If consequences are bad, then you work the cycle again. He uses the phrase, acquire a taste for uncertainty. I don't particularly like using the phrase the winner because I don't look at life as something that you're able to win. But I agree with and I love the following 3 concepts about the string of pearls metaphor. First, I agree with taking an action and moving forward. When working with depressed clients, there is a shutdown. And behavior activation is all about creating motivation to help and encourage and inspire clients to take an action. However, what Stutz is saying that it doesn't matter what kind of action it is as long as it's an action. Now, I believe that it is important that the actions be taken in line with that person's values and what they care about, because taking any action might not take them in the direction they want to go. Now, number 2, I love the phrase, acquire a taste for uncertainty. As an anxiety specialist, my clients are often hooked on efforts to gain certainty and security, and this keeps them in cycles of avoiding things and seeking safety, and those behaviors reinforce their anxiety. So I fully agree with concept of seeking anxiety and seeking uncertainty, because it will point you in the direction of where your work and growth are needed. And 3, finally, my favorite part of the pearl metaphor is that Stutz describes each pearl as having a black spot of imperfection. And isn't that a great analogy of how we are as humans? Everything we do, every personality trait we have, has a patch of imperfection. And the more we strive for perfection, the more stuck and unhappy we become. But when we embrace our humanness, our imperfections, and we can laugh at ourselves and accept that we will never be perfect, the more self-acceptance and the happier we become. Stutz goes on to mention concepts like Part X and our shadow self. Now, Part X is that judgmental part of you that tries to talk you out of everything and wants you to just give up. It's the same as a concept that I call the inner critic voice. I'll leave you a link to a video I made on that negative inner critic that we all seem to have inside of ourselves. If it's strong enough, it can even create imposter syndrome and keep you stuck and from progressing in your life. And then the shadow, a concept made popular by Carl Jung, is that part of you that you just don't want others to see. It's that part that we're ashamed of. It might even be repressed. And Stutz contends that your shadow needs attention, not from the world, but from you. The shadow and the Part X make me think of Part's work in a therapy called internal family systems. And it can be beneficial speaking to that part of yourself and acknowledging and even honoring that part of yourself. And Stutz goes on to describe how Part X, that judgmental part of us, can get lost in the maze. It also reminds me of Eckhart Tolle's work, what he refers to as the pain body. But the maze is an interesting metaphor. We all can get lost in that maze sometimes. The maze involves other people and our stories. And Part X feels like it wants fairness. It wants to be acknowledged for being treated unfairly. Part X wants to be heard, validated, apologized to, rewarded, and it wants the wrongs that were done to be acknowledged and accounted for, and the wrongdoers to be held responsible. But when you're in the maze, you're trapped in your past, and you're not moving forward with your string of pearls. Stutz describes a meditation he suggests when you're stuck in the maze, and he calls it active love. To experience active love, he suggests that you close your eyes and you imagine that you're surrounded by a universe filled with love. Feel yourself taking in all that love and gently but firmly place it into your heart. Imagine the person you're angry at and send all the love you've built towards them. Don't hold back. Send them all the love you've got. Feel the love enter the other person's body and feel as though you become one with them. Stutz describes this practice as giving you mastery and a sense of power. Now, he goes on to say that Part X wants to keep you stuck in that maze, but sometimes grateful flow, gratitude practices can get you out of the maze. So Stutz suggests saying several things that you're grateful for daily. Say them out loud. The smaller things, the better, as it forces you to concentrate on your gratefulness. Expressing gratitude is solidly backed up by research. Writing letters of gratitude, daily practices of gratitude have been proven over and over again to increase our happiness and well-being. But if you're like me, you get reminded of it and you practice it again with the best intentions, and then you get a little lazy until you're reminded again. But that's just our imperfection on that gratitude practice pearl. Now, another concept Stutz describes is called the snapshot. He explains that we are all looking for a perfect experience. And when we achieve it, we believe we will then finally be happy. And it might be the perfect partner, the perfect house, the perfect amount of money, the perfect Instagram post, perfect family, etc. But it just doesn't work. It's so interesting that people tend to look at happiness as a destination. When I find that perfect partner, I will be happy. When I get to my goal weight, I'll be happy. When I finish school and get the perfect job, I'll finally be happy. When I find that right friend group, I'll be happy. But what Stutz is trying to explain is that happiness cannot be achieved in a snapshot or a destination or by checking something off your list. Life is a process, and it's about moving through the process without getting stuck. There's constant movement and adjustment. So just when you think you've achieved what you thought would make you happy or found the right balance finally, you'll be out of balance again. Because life is like you're on a small boat. Constant adjustments need to be made depending on what wave or weather or situation shows up. Sometimes storms hit and you've got to be flexible. You've got to change your positioning to balance, while other times you can just lay back and feel the sun on your face. But it's how you cope with that overall journey that matters. A study in 2006 by Sheldon and colleagues suggests that changing one's life circumstances like marital status, career, location, income is not the most beneficial plan to greater happiness and well-being. And evidence by the same group of researchers have pointed that a large portion of happiness may be under people's control by the activities they choose and how they respond to situations in their life. I'm a pragmatic therapist, and I support whatever works in therapy or in life. And Stutz borrows from several different therapeutic models and has created metaphors and visualizations that help his clients understand, gain insight, and make progress. And I admire his relationship with his client, Jonah Hill, because it works for Jonah. Stutz has had many critics that claim he broke therapeutic boundaries with Jonah and gave way too much advice instead of staying more reflective. But in my 20 years of experience as a therapist, my relationship with each client is very different. There are some who develop a closer relationship and possibly view me as maybe an anchor in their lives, and others that are interested in short-term help with a particular issue. They're really not looking for a closer bond. And let's be real, Phil Stutz is a Hollywood therapist, and his clients have a lot of money and they have access to him because of that. So for most people, therapy is expensive, and there's a shortage of therapists available, especially with Stutz's level of insight, experience, and his personality. That's one reason Jonah Hill made this documentary about his therapist, and why some therapists like me are motivated to make videos, to bridge that gap and to share ideas and education about mental health, and with the hope that it may help you. I'd love to hear from you and how you're doing. Please leave me a comment about what you think of Dr. Stutz's ideas. And check out this next video on your inner critic voice. That may help you as well. Until next time, I'll see you in session. Take care. Bye-bye.